when the Pats beat us back in 2002, and that was it. Pretty much since then, it's been a lot of futility. One more playoff appearance, and that was about it. Yeah. So the fact that the last 2 years they've been as successful in the regular season as they've been in the NFC West champs both years, and that they've learned each year from their playoff mistakes. You know, the dropping that game to the Falcons at home was tough, and McVay learned from that. I'd say this year all the way through, not just that they did so much winning, but that they continued to kind of face adversity at various points and learn from it and grow and adjust. And granted, people go, but in the Super Bowl, they only scored 3 points. And I'm going, okay, but the Patriots only scored 13. And that was a defensive battle the whole way. So it would be like if the Patriots did to the Rams what they did to the Chargers and put 35 up on them on halftime, then I'd be sad. But what I felt was disappointed that they didn't win the game, but a lot of optimism for the future, man. I mean, I'm really thinking the future's bright, especially how young most of their main players are and their coach is. And Goff, for better or worse, and he surely has a lot of growing to do in the mental department, he's a humble dude. And I think you really can't substitute for that. You know, if a guy's got a big head, it's hard to get through to him. And if anything, that could have really shook his confidence, getting mollywopped the way that Goff did in that game. But I don't see that in Goff. I see Goff saying the right things after the game and being sincere. He knows he fell short and made some poor decisions. But I have to say, to defend him, he drove them down the field, Ben, in the last couple minutes of that fourth quarter and put a dime in Brandon Cook's breadbasket, man. The only reason that Brandon Cooks didn't catch that ball was because he was being interfered with and the refs didn't call it. So, again, not Goff's fault. He did everything right on that drive. And if that catch had been made, and granted, we don't know if Cooks would have made it even if he wasn't being interfered with, but if that catch had been made, it's 10-10, possibly 11-10, because I know McVay, he didn't want to go to overtime with Belichick. They could have won the game on that pass. So I don't look at it like Goff completely ate everything there. I don't think it was a total disaster. I think he still showed he's got a lot of upside, and I think McVay is a smart guy and a humble guy. They're both going to go back to the drawing board. I'm sure they already are, looking at those tapes, figuring out how they can get better. And then, of course, got to give a little bit of credit to the Pats. And you know I'm all over the Patriots online, but Belichick is an evil genius and a master of defense. So that was game-recognizing game. Bill and Wade really, really brought it on defense, and both of them deserve a pat on the back for how awesome both of those defenses were. If it's baseball, it's a pitcher's duel. If it's boxing, that's two heavyweights. That's Ali and Foreman going 15 rounds, and neither one really dropped till the very end. And you know, I feel like the Rams got a lot to be proud of on D.
Yeah, and I would say there is no such thing as moral victories, but you held the Patriots to 13 points, and that was getting a point at the end of the game. So I know there's not a lot to necessarily, you know, cheer about that you lost, but you got to think you made it to this point. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I did, because I just thought they had a stacked roster, and they did reach that mountaintop. But now you look at the future of this team. They're young. They've got a defense that can play, and this is just the beginning for them. They're like, and I can only say it so many times. They're young, and they're physical. Let me real quick. I got to say this. You probably know this guy, Kevin Gray. Said what's up. He's in the chat room.
What up, Kev? Glad you're out there listening. Yep. You got anything you want me to opine on, just let me know.
But I got to ask you this question, and I've said this on numerous podcasts because it looks like it, the eye test. Was Todd Gurley hurt? Or do you think Todd Gurley was hurt throughout the playoffs? Because to me, he just did not look like himself.
Well, I think it's probably a little bit of hurt in the body and in the mind, because you know how it goes, man. Whenever any of us have an injury, and we're not professional car crash victims like these guys are, but, you know, whenever anybody gets an injury, especially when it's one as significant as the legs, I think that you're always there's a mental hitch in your giddy up, if you will. I think that you're always kind of worried that the next time that you step on it funny, it's going to re-aggravate it. It's not like he had a ton of time to rehab. You know, he had a couple games off at the end of the year. He came back for the playoffs, but even then he didn't look 100%. Then he got a couple weeks off for the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
I think, if anything, like a lot of players, they don't want to give anything away to the defense, and you tell Belichick you're hurt, and good luck with that.
Yeah.
So I think they were trying real hard to keep that under wraps, and he still was gimpy a little bit. But I also think that it was also just that, mentally when you're tentative, you can't give it all you got. It's just that you got to be all in, and I don't think Todd's crazy enough, and I'm not even saying this as a criticism, but I don't think he's crazy enough that he's willing to sacrifice his future for one game. And I don't blame him. I guess, kind of like I coach kids basketball, and I'm always telling my kids, these are third and fourth graders, you want to do the things the right way. And if, risking injury is in your mind, I would say shut it down. Even if you really want to win that game, even if it's a championship, shut it down. Don't hurt yourself in that game to a degree where you can't have a comfortable life afterward. It's not worth that just for a ring to feel like you walk with a limp for the rest of your life. And I don't know if it was that severe or not, but boy, it sure seemed like he wasn't 100% physically or mentally in the NFC Championship or in the Super Bowl. And I think McVay erred on the side of caution there, and that's why he subbed him out and kind of let CJ take over most of the running from there. And that's why CJ was fresh. He hadn't played much of any football all year, and he had something to prove. And I think he did a very decent job through the playoffs. And Belichick came stacked up on the front line, so he came to shut them both down, and that game plan seemed to work. So Belichick gets the game ball there for figuring out how to stop what was seemingly an unstoppable running attack all year with or without Todd. So, yeah, that was the difference in that game. If those guys got loose, I think Rams could have won by 17. The way that the Patriots weren't scoring on Rams D. I mean, dude, we held Tom Brady to no touchdowns. I just love saying that out loud.
That's
Tom Brady all time didn't throw a TD, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. And also
that is a moral victory.
Yeah, and also I think, to me, this shows that Brady is human, because we have put Brady on this pedestal, which, he's won 6 Super Bowls, or he's been a part of 6 Super Bowls, but he is still human, and I still think he is one hit away from retiring. Because as much as he wants to say, I can play until I'm 45, he looked old. He looked old in the last Super Bowl. He looked old in this Super Bowl. And when I was watching that game, I was just hoping that Donald was going to get to him a couple of times. They only ended up with 1 sack. Donald got to him one time, but it was kind of just a hurry, and he threw him down to the ground. But if he was really able, Sue and Donald was able to push through the middle, that to me would have had to have been the game plan for them to be able to really win the game.
Yeah, and I think Bill very wisely figured out how to double Aaron enough that he took him out of the game for the most part. And that was surprising to me based on how dominant Aaron Donald has been all year. But again, the MVP of that Super Bowl, besides the referees, was Coach Belichick, man. I mean, just being real. The only other thing that was the difference maker was that non-call on Cooks. And everybody that wants to carp about the Saints game says, well, they didn't get a call on the PI on, that Nicole Roby-Coleman didn't get a flag on that. Yeah, and the Rams didn't get a lot of flags in that game either. So I kind of feel like that balanced itself out in that game. But, yeah, besides the referees, I think the only difference was that Belichick shrewdly game planned for Donald on D and also really game planned for his D on our running backs. That was the true difference, man. I don't think there was much any other difference except that finally our defense ran out of gas after that non-call on the PI on Cooks. And if they had called that would have been 1st and goal. And, Rams would have tied that game and maybe took the lead. So, I mean, it was that close of a football game to me, man. Again, we didn't win, but we sure didn't get our butts kicked, put it that way.
True. Shout out to D Nice in the chat room. Thank you for tuning in. So, you go into next year, you regroup. I do think McVay is going to be better. I do think Goff's going to be better going into next year. So the ceiling is high for them. They've got the pieces there. Once again, we got Tucker, Dale Booth on the line. talking about the Rams. Let's switch over to the NBA with the Lakers. I know you're a Lakers fan as well.
Oh boy, we got to talk about the Lakers. Oh
boy. LeBron, man, LeBron's there. Rondo, and let me ask you this first. And I was gonna talk about this on the show. LeBron and Rondo have been hanging out almost like best buddies. They were at the Duke game. They went to the Super Bowl, or they went to that playoff game, the Cowboys versus the Rams.
They're at the one with me. I was there too, man. We saw them on the big screen. We saw them there.
So what's up with their relationship? You think they're cool, or LeBron just found somebody to hang out with?
Well, I mean, I've followed LeBron real close through his entire career, so I think I have a pretty decent insight into his psychology. But as far as LeBrondo goes, I would say they're trying to create a romance. It's a veteran romance, man. I mean, or a bromance, or however you want to call it. I think he realizes that Rajon Rondo is the only other vet on this team that is really impactful. All the rest of the vets are just kind of, stay in their lane role players, whereas Rondo has the ability to take over a game with his talent and to guide the others because he's a savvy point guard. But we don't have a lot of talent on this Lakers team. And I know everybody always goes, what about the young guys? What about the young guys? I'm sorry, but the young guys have not been showing and proving that much. I think out of the young guys, the only one that anybody could logically say is showing much is Kuzma. And I think the others are underwhelming, all of them. And I think Lonzo's got a lot of upside, but he has a lot of downside. And the downside is he can't shoot. The downside is that he's got a crazy-looking shot, and he shoots under 50% from the free throw line. That's not good. Ingram has not really shown up and been a number 2 draft pick by my estimate and most other NBA scouts and knowledgeable people I know. And I think Josh Hart has a lot of upside too, but he's kind of buried in the mix, and hasn't really been given enough of the ball to be able to show what he's capable of. And so he kind of is hot and super cold and hot and super cold. So it's like Kyle Kuzma and a bunch of kind of 50-50 guys out of the youngers. So it's really like LeBron, Rondo, some veteran role players, and Kuzma, and the kids. And I think, Magic and Pelinka have done So-So is being generous to these guys, but I'll say it, so-so job of building around them. I think they whiffed on AD, and, of course, they only whiffed as much as I don't think the Pelicans had any real belief in trading with L.A. I think, if anything, like the Spurs, they were kind of just screwing with the Lakers. I don't think they really had any true desire to make that trade at this point. And Magic echoed that. But then again, Magic, you were very public, and you allowed the Pelicans to leak publicly everything that you were doing with these potential trades. The fact that Kuzma hasn't withered because of it is a testament to Kuzma's mental toughness. But that wasn't shrewd how you did that. And if you're going to do that, do whatever it takes to get that trade done, because now these kids are still sticking around, and maybe Kuzma's still able to play hard, but I think you rattled those young guys with this, knowing that they're that expendable to you. You either need to get it done or you need to do that in secret, and I don't think he did a good job of either one of those things. Now, granted, I said it. I think the Pelicans were just waiting until this summer and trying to get the word out to the rest of the league that they want a ton for Davis. A ton.
Yeah,
and
bigger than a ton. They want the whole team.
Right. They want a whole squad, or they want all your draft picks if you're Boston, because Boston's got all those draft picks stacked up for the next couple of years or whatever. They want a ton. And I think AD's worth it. So that's probably the only thing I can give the Pelicans credit for in this scenario as a Lakers fan is, yeah, you know what you got, and you're not going to get fleeced. So, good on you for not doing that. However, now you've also probably made Davis frosty because he wants out, and you're going to make him stick around the rest of the year. And I don't think that that's really that fair to him because he's been a real company man the whole way. It's not like AD's been constantly a problem for them. He's been impeccable with his behavior and all of it. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess Pelicans, I'll give you some credit, but not all of it for that. And Lakers are kind of going through growing pains. I mean, Magic got LeBron, and that was a good move. Whether you think LeBron's old or not, He's still got plenty of gas in the tank. But